Dr. Strangelove once said that the whole point of the Doomsday Machine
Dr.
is lost
Strangelove
if
once said
you
that the
keep it
whole
a secret. And whilst this may be
point
true
of the
in Hollywood,
Doomsday
where
Machine
the villain must
is lost
unveil their
if
plans to the audience before
you
their
keep it a
inevitable defeat,
secret, and
in
whilst
real
this
life,
may
villains tend to remain in the
be true
shadows
in Hollywood,
ever
where the
till
villain
discovery. And
must
there
unveil
is
their
one
plans
man
the
caught in
audience
darkness better than almost
before their
any
inevitable
other,
defeat
accomplishing
in
feats
real
of geopolitical villainy
life.
so
Villains
morally
tend to remain
bankrupt,
in them.
even snidely
Shadows
whiplash
ever
thought,
fearful of discovery, and
he's a bit on the evil
there is
side.
one
We're
man
not
who
burying
hid in
the
the
lead on
darkness
this one. This is a man who built
better
an
than almost
international
any
nuclear
other,
black market that
accomplishing
went
feats of
undiscovered for almost 2
geopolitical
decades. This is a man
villainy
who
so
successfully
morally
gave
bankrupt
nuclear
even
weapons to 3 nations.
Snidely
If he had fully
Whiplash
accomplished his
KY,
goals,
he's a bit.
it would have been 5.
On
This
the
is a
evil
man
side,
who
we're
wasn't
not
even
burying
totally
him.
against selling
On
nuclear
this one,
weapons
this is a
to
man who built an
Al-Qaeda. And to top it all off,
international nuclear
got away
black
with it.
market
the
that
greatest nuclear
went undiscovered for
proliferator
almost 2
in human
decades.
history.
This is a
Someone
man who
you've
successfully
probably never
gave
heard of. Abdul
nuclear
Qadir
weapons to
Khan.
3 nations. If he had fully accomplished his goals, it would have
Abdul
been 5.
Qadir
This is a
Khan, as
man
we will
who
refer to him henceforth,
wasn't
Khan,
even
or
totally against selling
AQK, was born in
nuclear
1935
weapons
in
to
the
Al
Indian
Qaeda
city,
and
though
to
born to a
DOP.
Muslim family. Not much is known
off, he
about
got
his
away with
childhood
it the
other than that he
greatest.
was a studious individual
Nuclear
who worked hard
proliferator
during his
in human
education.
history
He moved to
is
Pakistan in 1952
someone
at the
you've
age of
probably
16
never heard
and set
of.
up a new life with his family.
Abdul
once he
Qadir
had
Khan.
completed his schooling. It's
Abdul
here that we
Qadir
gain our
Khan,
first
or as
insight
we
into
will
the
refer to,
motivations driving Khan's
him
actions
henceforth
decades
Khan, or
later.
Ak, was born in
1952 was just 5 years after the hastily
1935
orchestrated
in the
partition
Indian
of British
city of
India,
Bhopal
the fallout
to
which
a
is regarded as one of the most
Muslim
tragic
family.
events
Not
in
much
modern
is known
political
about
history. Pakistanis
his
and
childhood
Indians
other
who were
than that he
religiously
was
and
a
ideologically opposed
studious
had already gone to
individual
war
who
over the
worked
territory
hard.
of Kashmir. There was
During his
a lot of
education, he
hatred
moved
between
to
both peoples.
Pakistan
and the partition
in
led to Pakistani
1952 at the
minorities
age
being
of
harassed
just
in
16
India and vice versa, leading
and set
to
up a
mass
new life
exoduses
with his
of
family.
Indians and Pakistanis to their
Once he had
respective
completed his
nations.
schooling,
Brutal
and
violence towards both groups was
it's here that we
common.
gain
It's
our
very
first
likely that
insight
the young AQK
into the
was
motivations
affected by
driving
this
Khan's
childhood. There were reports
actions
at the time of train
decades
carriages
later in
completely filled with
1952 was
corpses,
just
innocents
5
killed on both sides
years
for
after the
no
hastily
other reason
orchestrated
than who they were.
partition of
Independent
British
reports
India,
that
the
a
fallout
vast painting depicting red
of which is
flames
regarded
in the last
as one of the
train to
most
Pakistan was still
tragic
hanging on
events
Khan's
in
office
modern
wall in
political
2004. It
history.
clearly left a
Pakistanis
lasting
and
impression.
Indians who were
All right, let's take a quick break.
religiously
to talk
and
about your personal
ideologically
data.
opposed
Did you know that there are companies
had
out
already
there,
gone
data
to war
brokers
over
and people
that
search sites collecting,
territory of
storing, and
Kashmir?
selling
There was a lot
everything
of
from your home address to
hatred
your
between
browsing
both
habits.
peoples,
After
and the
major data breaches like
partition
the
led
recent
to
Blackbuster
Pakistani
ransomware attack,
minorities
BT Group's conferencing division,
being harassed in
more info
India
might be
and
floating
vice versa,
around out there for anyone from
leading to
marketers
mass exoduses of
scammers
Indians
to snatch
and
up. And cleaning up that mess,
Pakistanis to their respective
nearly
new
impossible on your own, all right? And that's where
nations'
Incogni
brutal
steps in.
violence
Incogni
towards
is like your
both
personal bouncer for the
groups
internet.
was, and it's
Contacts
very
with
likely
brokers
that
on your
a
behalf demands they
young
leak
Ak was
information
affected by
and
this
keeps them in
during
check by following up regularly.
his
Think of
childhood.
it
There were
as
reports of
tireless privacy.
time of train carriages completed,
Here's how it works. You sign up and you tell
filled with
Incogni
corpses,
whose data
innocent
is
skills
removed.
on
That's your data, by the way.
both
Give
sides
them
for
permission
no
to
other
act for you,
reason
and then
than
you sit
who
back and relax while Incogni
they were the
handles
independent
objections
reports
and
that a
updates you every step of the way.
vast
It's quick,
painting
it's
depicting
effective,
red
and honestly,
flames and
bit of a relief.
the last
And it will
train
save you a huge
Pakistan
amount of
was
time,
still
because you don't want to be emailing hundreds of
hanging
things.
on Khan's office
And the results
wall
speak
in
for themselves.
2004.
One user shared how scammers
Clearly
will hold
left
their
a
details
lasting
from a people's
impression
search
all.
site, address, relatives,
Right, let's
will
take a
works
quick
after
break
signing
to
up for
talk
Incogni. The nightmare
about
ended.
your
So
personal
protect
data.
yourself
Did
before
you
it's
know
too late. Head to incogni.com
that there are
/warfares.
companies out there
Use the
data
promo code WARFARES.
Brock and
Get
people
60%
search
off
sites
an annual
collecting,
plan. Small price to pay for
storing
this.
and selling everything from your
Sponsoring, and now back to today's
home
episode.
address to your
Khan
browsing
graduated
habits.
from the University of Karachi
After
in
major
1960
data
with a
breaches
bachelor's
like
degree
the
in physics. He then
recent
went on to Europe
black-based
to pursue further
ransomware
studies,
attack
spending
on
time in the Netherlands before
BT
eventually
Group's
completing a
conferencing
doctorate in
division. Your
metallurgical engineering from the
info
University of
might be
Leuven in
floating
Belgium
around
around
out there
1972. He
for
eventually
anyone
found a
from
job
marketers
in the early
to
70s
scammers to
working for Urenco at the Physics Dynamic
snatch
Research
up and
Laboratory
cleaning
in
up that
Almelo, a city
message.
in the eastern Netherlands.
Nearly
British, Dutch, and
impossible
German
on your
governments
own
had set up a
alright.
lab known as FDO to
And that's
provide
where
equipment for
Incognito
enriching
steps
uranium.
in.
And in the business of
Incognito
YouTube, we call
like
this
your personal
Porsche.
bouncer for the
Khan's keen academic
internet.
interest
It
in
contacts
nuclear science,
data
alongside
brokers
his
on
fervent nationalism,
your
only
behalf
grew.
demands
In
they
1974,
delete your
India conducted its first nuclear
information
test,
and
known
keeps
as
them in check
Operation
by
Smiling Buddha. It is
following
here
up regularly.
where,
Think of
through
it as
fear for his country, facing
having a
nuclear
tireless
blackmail
privacy
from its
advocate
greatest rival,
working in
Khan
your
made
corner Connor
choice.
hears Arid.
He was going to build a
Works
nuclear
you
weapon
sign
that
up
could
and you
start to
tell
really balance the
Incognito.
scales. Khan wrote
Whose
to then
data
Pakistani
to
Prime
remove that's your
Minister
data by?
Zulfikar al-Bhutto,
The way you
offering
give
his
them
services
permission to
as
act.
someone well versed in nuclear
For
science
you, and then you sit
technology.
back and
At
relax.
the same time, at FDO, Khan
While
was tasked with
Incognito
translating the
handles
German-designed
objections
G1 and
and
G2 centrifuge blueprints
updates you
from
every
German to
step of the
Dutch.
way. It's
Khan's time in Europe had seen him become
quick, it's
fluent in
effective,
both
and
languages,
honestly
and
bit
as
of
one of the few multilingual
a
people
relief,
with the
and it will
experience
save
to
you a
translate
huge
such delicate designs,
amount
he was
of
allowed
time
to do
because
so
you don't
alone.
want to
According to the New York Times,
be
he was
emailing
left
hundreds of
unsupervised
data
for
brokers
16
to
days, more than enough
you
time to
and the
gather all of
results
the
speak
information
for
he needed.
themselves.
Around this time, Prime
One
Minister
user
Bhutto
shared how
responded to
scammers got a
AQK,
hold
asking him to come to Pakistan
of their details
through
from a
covert
People
channel
search.
to meet him in Islamabad.
Site address
According to
relatives the
Kazem
works
Nazi,
after.
former member of the National
Signing
Assembly
up
of
for
Pakistan,
Incognito, the
cabinet
nightmare
minister in the
ended.
Bhutto administration, and
So
author
protect
of
yourself
Inside a
before it's
biographical
too late.
work, The Last Days of Premier
Head to
Bhutto,
Incognito
the Prime Minister
Docomo
asked
fronts
Khan to
and
build a
use
nuclear
them.
weapon for Pakistan.
Promo
Khan
code
agreed.
WARFRONTS to
Bhutto
get
believed
60%
that
of
the nuclear non-proliferation treaty
Annual
soon coming
plan,
into
small
effect.
price
If
to pay
Pakistan
for
didn't get
peace.
the bomb now, then they
Of
never
mine, thank you to
By October
Income
1975, Khan's actions were starting
Sponsoring
to
and
arouse
now
suspicion.
back to
He was
today's
transferred away from enrichment
episode.
work when Dutch
Khan
authorities
graduated
became
from the
concerned over his activities.
University of
Similarly, the New York
Karachi
Times
in
reported Khan
1960
asking
with a
suspicious questions at a nuclear
bachelor's
trade
degree
show
in
Switzerland.
physics. He then
However, despite Dutch
went on to
authorities
Europe
being
to
hot on his
pursue
heels,
further
it was already too late.
study,
In December
spending
of
time in
1975,
the Netherlands
AKQ suddenly returned to
before
Pakistan,
eventually
landing in
completing
Karachi
a doctorate
with only 3 large boxes.
in metallurgical
According to
engineering
Niazi,
from the
the only things in the
University
boxes were
of
personal
Louvain
notes
in
written
Belgium
from memory.
around
This included copied
1972, he eventually found a job
as
in
the
the
contact information for
early
around 100
70s as
companies
working
that
for
supplied
Renault
centrifuge components and materials.
Physics
He
Dynamic
was set
Research
up in a lab
Laboratory
in Islamabad with one
Alalo, a
instruction:
city in the eastern
build
Netherlands.
the bomb.
The British, Dutch, and German governments had set up a lab known
Khan
as
was set
FDO
up
to
in the
provide
Kahuta Research Laboratories and
equipment
given
for enriching
express
uranium
autonomy to
and
deliver
in
Pakistan a nuclear weapon.
the business of
Niazi
YouTube. We
states
call
that
this
AQK made a
foreshadowing
commitment that
Khan's
within
keen
7 years
academic
would bring Pakistan up to
interest
par with
in
other world
nuclear
powers
science
in nuclear
alongside
energy. Interestingly,
his
Khan's
fervent
own
nationalism
website, where he had
only
written
grew
blog
when,
pages of his experience
in
as corroborates this. He
1974,
stated,
India
"Some people
conducted its
advised me to
first
lie to Mr. Bhutto that the bomb
nuclear
would be
test
ready in
known
3
as
years.
Operation
I
Smiley.
refused, knowing very well
Buddha,
that
it is
he would have
here where
formulated
through
his
fear
foreign
for
policy on that premise.
his country
That
facing
could have been
nuclear blackmail.
disastrous for the country.
From
Whilst
its
it's highly
greatest
important
rival,
to
the
take
Khan
this
made
verse
a
with an entire
choice.
dump
He was
truck
going to
himself.
build a nuclear
After all, the man himself can hardly
weapon
need to
for
deliver an
Pakistan
unbiased
to
source.
rebalance them.
It speaks to his patriotism
Scales
of
Khan
being
wrote to
a
then
motivator
Pakistani
for his actions. It's
Prime
also
Minister
strange to see a
Zolak
renowned
Kar
nuclear
Albert
proliferator
offer
and criminal speak so
his
openly about
services as
developing
someone
Pakistan's
well-versed
nuclear
in
weapons. This would actually
nuclear
become a theme,
science
as Khan
and
often
enrichment.
spoke to the media over the course
Technology
of his life,
at the
once
same
his
time
nuclear
that
secrets were no
FDOK
longer
was
secrets. Just remember that
tasked
Khan is
with
not exactly
translating
the
the
most
German
reliable narrator.
design G1 and G2 centrifuge blueprints.
We will be
From
quoting
German to
the
Dutch
doctor from
Steve
time
in
to
Europe
time,
had
so do just keep that
seen
in
him
mind.
become fluent in both
AQK
languages
was in Pakistan
and as
building
one of the
bomb
few
and was given
multilingual
whatever resources he
people
needed
with
to
the
do it.
experience
He was
to
able to get
translate
blueprints for a Urenco
such delicate designs. He
eventually
was
developed
allowed
a
to
working prototype adapted
do
from
so
the German
alone,
G1
according to
design.
the New York
He called this new system
Times. He was left
the
unsupervised for
very
16
original. Throughout his time
days,
working
more
with
than
the
enough
computer
time to
research
gather
lab,
all
Khan was able to procure
of the
materials
information
and
he needed
components
around
needed
this.
for a nuclear device from both
Time Prime
domestic and
Minister
international
BAU
sources.
responded to
Pakistan has a reserve
asking
of
him to
uranium
come to
with several
Pakistan
mines
through
throughout the
a
nation, and with the backing of the Pakistani
covert channel
government
to meet
acquiring
him in
some
his
for
lab.
future enrichments.
According to
was
KI,
very-
former member
He was
of
also
the
able to procure supplies
National
from
Assembly
companies all
of
over the world.
Pakistan Cabinet,
Through a setup of multinational
Minister
companies
in
and
the
shell
BAU
corporations,
administration
Khan was able to
and
gather the supplies he needed with
author
little
of the
suspicion.
Insider
He was often
biographical
traveled
work,
through the UAE, which
The
has
Last
been
Days of
considered a
Premier
smuggler's
BAU
haven
the
for
Print.
decades, owing to its status
Minister
as a
asked
trading
Khan
hub
to
with
build a
lax
nuclear
shipping regulations. AQK
weapon for
just so happened
Pakistan.
to have
Khan
a
agreed
brother who
how.
lived in Dubai who could help
Believed
cover
that
his
with the
tracks.
nuclear
Similarly, at the time, many components and
Non-Proliferation
materials
Treaty
used to
soon
make
coming
nuclear
into
weapons were and still
effect
are
if
considered
Pakistan
dual
didn't get
use
the
for
bomb.
peaceful nuclear power
Now then,
development
they
as
never
well as
would by
nuclear
October.
weapons. This means that it can be harder to
1975,
control and
Khan's
track
actions
these
were starting
materials,
to
which offered Pakistan
arouse
plausible
suspicion he was
deniability
transferred
of its
away
atomic ambitions. The
from
independent
enrichment
quoted
work
Khan
when
as having
Dutch
said, "If you stop me from
authorities
buying from
became
Pakistan,
concerned over
then
his
I will buy elsewhere.
activities.
But
Similarly,
I will
the New
buy
York
it
Times
because I need it.
reported David Kahn
on
asking
it.
suspicious.
Pakistan was eventually able
Questions
to get its
and
hands
a
on
nuclear
Chinese
trade
nuclear
show
weapon
in
blueprints from when China
Switzerland,
conducted its
however,
fourth
despite
nuclear test in
Dutch
1966.
authorities
Today,
being
Chinese
hot
and
on his
Pakistani
heels
officials vehemently deny
was
that
already
any
too
transfer
late
of
in
information
December of
occurred, but given the
1975.
similarities between Pakistan's first
AKQ
nuclear test and
suddenly
China's
returned to
1966
Pakistan,
test, it is highly likely
landing in
that the two
Karachi
states
with only
cooperated
3
in
large
some way on nuclear
boxes,
technology.
according to Aziz,
Pakistan
the
and
only
China were
things.
collaborating more at the
In the
time
boxes
to
were
prevent
personal
nuclear
notes.
disdain towards India.
Scribbled
Khan
from
was
memory, this
remarkably
included
successful in his nuclear
copied
weapons
blueprints
development
for
and uranium
centrifuges
enrichment
and
backed by the Pakistani state.
other
It's
technologies
unknown
as well
exactly
as
when
the
Pakistan
contact information for around
But under
100
almost total secrecy, the program
companies
continued
that
until
supplied
1998,
centrifuge,
when a week after India
components
conducted
and
another
materials
nuclear
he was
test,
set up
Pakistan detonated
in a
a nuclear
lab in
device for the first
Islamabad
time
with one
in Shagai, Balochistan,
instruction builder.
announcing Pakistani
Bomb
nuclear
KH
parity
was
with
set
the
up
rest
in
of
the
world.
Kahuta.
Khan was
Research
lauded by
laboratories
his
and
nation
given
as the man
express
who had put Pakistan back
autonomy
on the
to
level
deliver
playing field.
Pakistan a
The
nuclear
state saw his contributions the same
weapon
way,
year as he
rewarding him with
states that
countless
Act made
official
a
decorations, including 13
commitment that
solid
within
gold
7
medals
years
and
he
various
would
public honours. In
bring
2001,
Pakistan up
AUK
to
was
par
further
with other
rewarded when he was promoted to the
world
inner circle
powers
of the
in
country's
nuclear
military
energy.
leadership under General Perez
Interestingly,
Musharraf
Khan's
as
own
only
website where
special science and technology
he had
advisor.
written blog
But
pages
Abdul
of his
Qadir Khan had a
experiences
dark secret.
corroborates
During his
this,
time
he
developing
stated.
Pakistan's nuclear weapons
Some people
program,
advised me
it
to
wasn't
lie
the
to
only
Mr.
nation who was
BAU
helping secure an atomic
that the
destiny.
bomb would
What
be
eventually
ready in
be
3
uncovered
years.
would be a
I
truly
refused,
shocking
knowing very
network
well
of
that
nuclear
he
proliferation across
would have
multiple
formulated his
countries
foreign
to whom
policy
the George W.
on
Bush
that
administration
premise,
would
and that
later
could have been
describe as rogue
disastrous
states.
for the
He
country
may have
will
won the
its
medals, but you're about
highly
to learn
important to
why
take his
Dr.
words
Khan
with
was no hero.
an entire dump truck full of salt after. All the man himself can hardly be.
The mid-1980s is
Considered an
commonly believed to be
unbiased
when
source it
AQK's
speaks
nuclear proliferation started.
to his
That is,
patriotism
it
being a
don't count as
motivator
well already
for
done in secret and indirect
his actions. It's also
authority.
strange
The
to
very
see
autonomy
a
granted to him by
renowned
Islamabad
nuclear
to develop a weapon in the
proliferator
first place
and
had also allowed him
criminal
to set up a
speak so
clandestine
openly
global
about
network of nuclear secret
developing
sharing.
Pakistani
In the 1980s,
nuclear weapons.
Khan started exporting components
This would
and
actually
materials
become
to
a
other
theme
nations.
as
He was also able to use the
Khan
previously
often spoke to
established
the
group of
media
shell
over
companies and the lax
course of
Emirati
his
shipping
life
system
once his
backed in
nuclear
almost complete secrecy.
secrets were
away
no
from
longer
foreign
secrets,
governments'
just.
prying eyes. The New York
Remember
Times
that
asserts
Khan
this
is
decision
not
to start
exactly the
exporting, which accompanied
most
an order
reliable
of twice the
narrator and
necessary
had opinion
components for the domestic Pakistani
of talking in
nuclear
such a way
program
that
was
painted
completely missed by Western
him in a
intelligence
positive light. We
sources
will be
at the time who assumed
quoting
Khan
the doctor
was
from
only
time to
working on
time, so
Pakistan's domestic program.
do just keep that in
Wrong.
mind. So Ak was in
Very wrong. AQK
Pakistan
was able to
building
operate
the
a
bomb
network of
and was
nuclear
given
proliferation for around 2
whatever
decades,
resources he
supplying
needed to
multiple
do it. He
nations with the means to eventually
was able to
develop
get
nukes of
blueprints
their
for
own.
Irena,
I'm not going to talk about each country
made
individually,
centrifuge
but
and
AQK
eventually
is used to give
developed
nuclear secrets to Iran
a working
and North Korea,
prototype
while also
adapted
attempting
from
to
the
provide Libya and Iraq with the
German
building
G1
blocks of
design.
nuclear
He called this
annihilation.
new
Iran was one of the first
system, the
beneficiaries
P1,
of
how very
AQK's
original.
proliferation network. The P1
Throughout his
centrifuge
time
that
working
Khan
at the
designed was the exact
Kahuta
same design
Research
that found its
Lab.
way
Khan
into
was
Iranian
able to
hands in the late 80s. Khan
procure
made
the
a deal
materials
with
and
Iran to help
components
build
he
a cascade of 50,000
needed for a
P1s,
nuclear
according to the New
device
York
from
Times.
both
The development of
domestic
new
and
technology
international
meant that
sources.
Pakistan's P1s were obsolete.
Pakistan
with Khan
has a
selling the
reserve of
surplus
uranium
equipment for
with
profit. In 1994,
several
the New York
mines
Times
throughout
also
the nation
reported
and
2 containers of gas
with
centrifuge
the backing
parts
of the
from Dr. Khan's
Pakistani
labs were shipped through
government
Dubai to
acquiring
Iran
some
for
for
about $3
future
million worth of UAE
enrichments.
currency.
It was very
When one of
easy. He
Iran's
was
P1
also
centrifuges was found to be
able to
contaminated with
procure
enriched
supplies
uranium
from
by the
companies
International Atomic Energy Agency,
all over the world
Iran
through a
was
setup
forced
of
to implicate Khan,
multinational
claiming they had
companies
developed
and
it
Shell.
themselves. The Iranians
Corporations.
stated they
Ka
bought
was
the
able to
centrifuges
gather
from a
the
third party, but AQK's
supplies he
hand was
needed with
evident
little
in the following
suspicion.
analysis. For his trouble, the
Goods
Independent
often traveled
asserts
through
that
the
Iran
UAE,
granted Khan a villa on
which
the
has been
Caspian Sea
considered
together
the
with lucrative
smugglers.
fishing rights in return for his
Haven for
secrets.
decades owing to
Khan's
its
own
status
confession
as
also placed him
a
at the
trading
heart of
HB with
negotiations
lax
with
shipping.
North Korea in a trade
Regulations
in nuclear
Act just
secrets.
happened to have
Pakistan
a
gave North Korea
brother
secrets
who
and
lived in
potentially
Dubai
even
who
enrichment
could
technology in return
help
for their
him cover
knowledge
his
on ballistic
tracks
missiles
similarly
in
at
what must have been the most
the time
dangerous
many
trade
components
deal
of
in
materials
the history of trade deals.
used to make
This is
nuclear
corroborated by
weapons were
Pakistan
and
developed Gauri missiles
still
being
are considered
based on
dual use
North
for
Korea's Nondong missile
peaceful
design,
nuclear
which itself
power
comes
development
from the
as
Soviet Scud missiles design.
well as nuclear
The New York
weapons.
Times
This
reports
means that
in 1990, a Greek
it can be
intermediary
harder
offered
to
Iraqi
control and
dictator
track
Saddam Hussein's regime an
these
atomic bomb
materials
design
which
from Dr.
offered
Khan.
Pakistan
The intermediary also guaranteed
plausible
material support for
deniability
uranium
in its
enrichment from
atomic
Western Europe in keeping
ambitions.
with
The
Khan's
Independent
modus
of
operandi.
quoted
A leaked
KH
Iraqi memo that found its way
as
to the
having
hands of the
said,
UN
if you
suggests
stop me
that
from
Khan wanted considerable payment
buying
for
from
this technology.
Pakistan, then I will
Eventually,
buy
Iraq declined,
elsewhere,
suspecting
but
the
I will
offer of
buy it
being
because
part of a
I
Western sting operation.
need it
Although
and
a
I
more
can buy it.
practical reason
Pakistan
may be that
was
the Gulf War was right around the
was
corner, and the
eventually able to
discovery
get
of
its
potential
hands
Iraqi
on
weapons of mass destruction
Chinese
put the
nuclear
world's
weapon
superpowers on
blueprints
high
from
alert, as it was
when
just 30
China
years later.
conducted its
It was
fourth
even reported
nuclear
by the Independent again
test in
that
1966.
leaked
Today,
Al-Qaeda
Chinese, and
documents seized in
Pakistan.
Afghanistan suggested that
Officials
Dr. Khan's
vehemently
protégés
deny
had
that
been
any
briefing Osama bin Laden's
transfer of
associates in
information
nuclear
occurred,
matters.
but
This is also
given the
one
similarities
thing
between
AQK didn't admit in his
Pakistan's
confession,
first
so there is
nuclear test
speculation
and
on how much Khan
China's
and Al-Qaeda were
1966
involved.
test,
We
it
know
is highly
Al-Qaeda
likely
had nuclear ambitions
that
at
the
time
two
and
states
sought nuclear
cooperated in
expertise.
some
Whilst there is no evidence
way
to
on
suggest
nuclear
Khan was
technology,
directly
Pakistan
involved, or that
and
Al Qaeda received
China
any
were
nuclear material
collaborating more at
whatsoever,
them.
if they were going to get it from anywhere.
Time out to their mutual disdain towards.
And finally, we come
India.
to
Khan
Libya,
was
where in
remarkably
2003,
successful in
the extent of Khan's nuclear
his nuclear
proliferation
weapons
network would
develop
finally be
and
discovered.
uranium
Soon, the whole
enrichment
world
backed by the
would know
Pakistani
what he
state.
had done.
It's unknown exactly when Pakistan became nuclear capable,
Libya
but under
was well
almost
known under eccentric dictator
total
Muammar
secrecy.
Gaddafi as
The
a
program
nation with
continued
nuclear ambitions. Throughout
until
the 90s, they had taken
1998,
Khan's
when a
equipment
week
and
after
know-how in
India
exchange
had
for millions of dollars to the
conducted
extent
another
that they could
nuclear
now
test.
develop 10
Pakistan
nuclear weapons every year, according
detonated
to
a
the New York
nuclear
Times.
device
Libya
for the
had
first
officially given up their nuclear
time in
program
Shagai
following the
Bulan
US
announcing
invasion of Iraq in 2003.
Pakistani
However,
nuclear
it appears
parity
Gaddafi's
with the
regime
rest
wasn't totally
of the world.
honest in
Khan
doing
was
so.
lauded by
Authorities
his
from multiple intelligence agencies
nation
like
as
the
the man
CIA
who had
and
put
MI6
Pakistan
had finally caught wind of
back
something
on a level
happening in the
pegging with
Libyan
India.
nuclear space, although
State
authorities
saw
had
his
been
contributions
tracking
the
Khan
same
for
way,
years at this point.
rewarding him
a
with
German
countless
flagship
official
called the BBC China,
decorations,
bound for
including
Libya
13
in late summer
solid
of
gold
2003, was intercepted
medals
by German,
and various
Italian,
public
US and British
honors in
forces. It was
2001.
taken to an Italian port for
Act
inspection.
was further rewarded
Centrifuges
when
were
he
discovered
was
labeled machine parts
promoted
that
to
had
the
come
inner
from
circle
Malaysia,
of the
where Khan had set up several
country's
front
military
lines.
leadership
Much like in
under
Iran, these centrifuges
General
were Khan's
Perez
P1
Mashera
and
as the
P2
leaders.
designs. AQK's network
Special
had
science
just
and
been
technology
exposed.
advisor.
Surely, now
But
the following
Abdul Qadir
investigations
Khan
would
had
see
a
him
dark
locked away
secret
forever for giving nuclear
during his
secrets
time
to
developing
rogue states.
Pakistan's
Right?
nuclear weapons
Well,
program.
no,
It
not
wasn't
exactly.
that.
Following an investigation,
nation he was
debrief, and
helping
increased
secure
international pressure from other nations
atomic
towards
destiny,
Pakistan,
what would
Abdul
eventually
Qadir
be
Khan appeared on live
uncovered
Pakistani
would be a
television
truly
to confess to his
shocking
crimes. A small
network
excerpt
of nuclear
from the confession reads as
proliferation
follows.
across
The investigation has established
multiple
that many
countries
of
to
the
whom the
reported
George
activities
W.
did occur, and that
Bush
these
administration
were
would
inevitably
later describe
initiated at my behest.
as
In
rogue
my
states.
interviews
He may
with
have
the
won
concerned government officials, I
medals,
was
but
confronted
you're about
with the
to learn
evidence
why
and the
Dar.
findings, and I have
Khan was
voluntarily
no
admitted that much of it is true
hero.
and
The
accurate. My dear brothers and
mid-1980s is
sisters,
commonly
I have
believed
chosen to appear before you to
to
offer my
be when
deepest
at
regrets and
nuclear
unqualified
proliferation
apologies to a traumatized
started.
nation.
That is, if you
He
don't
finished
count
his confession
his
by proclaiming, "May
work
Allah
already
keep
done in
Pakistan
secret
safe and
under
secure.
direct
Long live Pakistan."
Pakistani authority, the
Great.
very
Now we have a
autonomy
confession as well.
granted
what
to
could
him by
possibly
Islamabad
stop this
to
man from
develop
spending a
the
considerable
weapon in
amount
the
of time
first
behind
place
bars?
had also
Well,
allowed
there
him
would be
to
a
set up a
presidential
clandestine
pardon. Following Khan's confession
global
of his
network of
proliferation
nuclear
network
secret
to the
sharing.
world, then Pakistani
In the
President
1980s,
Pervez
Khan
Musharraf
started exporting
pardoned AQK less than
components
24 hours
and
later,
materials
announcing,
to other
"I have decided to pardon Dr.
nations."
AQ
He was
Khan,
also
who
able
is
to use
our
his
national hero, but has
previously
made
established
mistakes,
group
which
of
is
Shell
unfortunate. Whatever I have
companies
done,
and the lax
I have tried
Emirati
to shield
shipping
him. David Kay,
system to
former
act in
US
almost
chief weapons
complete
inspector,
secrecy,
said at the time, "I can think
away
of no
from
one
foreign
who
governments
deserves
prying
less to be pardoned."
eyes. The New York Times
The pardon
asserts
cleared
that
Khan of all wrongdoing.
this
and
decision to
precluded a
start
trial,
exporting
meaning
which
that he would never have to answer
accompanied
for what
an
he had
order
done.
of twice
He
the
didn't get off totally scot-free,
necessary
but given the scope
components
of his
for the
crimes,
domestic
he may as well have.
Pakistani
President
nuclear
Musharraf had Khan
program
placed
was
under house
completely
arrest. There was significant
missed by
international
Western
interest in bringing
intelligence
Khan to
sources
justice, but the Pakistani
at the
government
time
wouldn't
who
hear
assumed
it.
Khan
They couldn't
was
have a
only
national hero tried
working on
in a foreign
Pakistan's
court.
domestic program.
Pakistani officials refused
They
US
were wrong,
requests
they
to
were
allow
very
them
wrong
or the
act.
IAEA to question
Was
Khan.
able to
Whilst Khan's
operate a network
was
of
dismantled,
nuclear
shipping offices closed, and
proliferation
factories
for
shuttered,
around 2
Khan himself was
decades,
out of reach. Worse
supplying
still, his
multiple
house arrest
nations
and his
with
cushy
the
home in Islamabad
means
didn't
to
last.
eventually
By
develop
2009,
nukes
a
of
series of relaxations on
their
his
own.
confinement
Now we're not
eventually
going to
concluded
talk
with Khan being granted his
about
freedom.
each country
Although,
individually,
if he ever
but
exits
act
Pakistan again, he may
is
well
accused
have
of
been
giving
handed over
nuclear
to
secrets
international
to
authorities. His cell
Iran
had
and North
essentially
Korea,
expanded to
while
the
also
882,000 square
attempting to
kilometre
provide
nation of
Libya
Pakistan.
in Iraq
5
with
years in your house and
the
no foreign
building block
holidays
of
is
nuclear
hardly a high price to pay
annihilation.
for a man who
Iran,
attempted to
one of
share
the first
nuclear secrets with 5
beneficiaries
nations.
of
Pakistan's
AQK's
foreign ministry
proliferation
acknowledged the end of Khan's
network,
confinement,
the P1
but said Islamabad
centrifuge
will
that
take,
KH
quote, all necessary measures to
designed
promote
was the
the
exact
goals
same
of
design that
non-proliferation. Other
found
nations
its way into
were not
Iranian hands
happy.
in the
Jeffrey G. Lewis,
late
director
80s.
of the Nuclear
KH even made a
Strategy and
deal with
Non-Proliferation
Iran
Initiative at the New
to
America
help build a
Foundation, said
cascade
Khan's
of
ability to
50,000
essentially walk
P1s.
away from nuclear smuggling
According
charges,
to the
quote,
New York Times,
makes a
the
mockery of our efforts to
development
stop the
of
spread
new
of nuclear
technology
weapons,
meant that
end quote. David Albright, a
Pakistan's
former UN
P1s
nuclear
were
inspector
obsolete
who has
with
spent
KH,
years studying the network,
selling
told
the
Washington
surplus
Post
equipment
that, quote,
for profit.
Khan remains a serious
In 1994, the
risk,
New York
continuing
Times
that
also
he likely
reported
still has or can
that
access
2 containers
sensitive
of gas
nuclear technology.
centrifuge
He certainly certainly knows
Pods
how to
from
organize
Dr.
nuclear
Kun's labs
smuggling
were shipped.
internationally. Worse
through
still,
Dubai
the
to
discovery of
Iran
nuclear
for
weapons
about
blueprints on
$3
computers found in Switzerland
million
and
worth of
Dubai,
UAE
reported in a
currency
Washington
when
Post
one
feature, prompted
of Iran's
questions about
P1
whether the damage
centrifuges was
inflicted
found
by
to be
Khan's network was truly
contaminated
contained or
with
even
enriched
understood.
uranium by
Unfortunately, we'll never
the
know,
International
as in
Atomic
2021,
Energy
Abdul
Agency.
Qadir Khan caught COVID-19,
Iran was
was
forced to
hospitalized in
implicate
Pakistan,
Khan or
and eventually died at the age
claim
of
they
85,
had developed it
likely
themselves.
taking what remained
The
of his
Iranians
secrets
stated they bought
to the
them.
grave.
Accuses from a third party, but Khan was evident
When
in
we
the
talk
following
about
analysis.
Abdul Qadir Khan,
For
there
his trouble,
are
the
a number
Independent
of highly
asserts
important questions that remain
that Iran
unanswered.
granted
Maybe most
KH a villa
importantly
on the
is why.
Caspian
One may be
Sea
able to
together
understand
with
being
lucrative
the father of nuclear weapons for your
fishing
own
rights
nation,
in return
but
for his
why would someone
nuclear
sell nuclear secrets to some of the
secrets.
most
Khan's own
abhorrent
confession
regimes in
also
modern history?
placed
Well,
him
the
at the
obvious
heart
answer
of
to that question is
negotiations
money. Khan knew his
with
network
North
of
Korea
parts and
in a trade
materials
for
alongside
nuclear.
his expertise would be invaluable
Secrets
to some
Pakistan
nations.
gave North
All he had to
Korea.
do was name his
Secrets
price.
and potentially
The Washington
even
Post reported
enrichment.
that Khan's lavish lifestyle
Technology
was, quote,
in
the
return
worst
for their
kept
knowledge
secret in town and should
on
have triggered
ballistic
suspicions
missiles
among
and what
those
must have
responsible for protecting Pakistan's
been the most
nuclear
dangerous
secrets.
trade deal in
Despite being on an official
the
civil
history of
servant
trade
salary
deals.
of
This
$2,000
is
a month, Khan was
corroborated by
spectacularly
Pakistani
wealthy.
developed
Looking at the
G
case with Iran and the villa they
missiles
gifted him,
being
it's
based
not
on
hard to
North
see
Korea's
where his money might have come
known
from.
missile
Khan was
design,
reported
which
by the
itself
Independent
comes
to have had a collection of vintage
from the
cars,
Soviet
4
Scud
luxury
missiles
homes in
designed
Islamabad,
there.
real estate in London,
New York
multi-million
Times
dollar wedding
reports that in
receptions he hosted for his
1998,
2 daughters, and a
Greek
luxury hotel
intermediary
he built
offered
in
Iraqi
Timbuktu, Mali,
dictator
named after
Saddam
his wife.
Hussein's regime
Maybe
an
it was
atomic
just greed. Khan found
bomb
himself
designed
in
from
a
Dr.
position
Khan
where
the
he could get
intern.
everything he ever wanted and
Also
more,
guaranteed
and so
material
sold
support
his
for
secrets to the highest bidder,
uranium
regardless of who
enrichment
they
from
were.
Western Europe.
Another reason may also
In keeping
highlight
with
Khan's
KH motor
ambitions and
operandi
motive,
A,
his ego.
leaks
When he spoke
Iraqi
to the
memo
media,
that
he
found
boasted
its
of
way
his
into
accomplishments, lauding his achievements,
hands
and
of the UN
downplaying
suggests
others'
that Khan
contributions. He takes sole
wanted
credit for the
considerable
remarkable feat
payment
of
for
turning
this.
Pakistan, who Khan
Technology
described as, quote,
eventually
a country
Iraq
which couldn't
declined,
produce bicycle chains,
suspecting the
into a
offer of
nuclear
being
power.
part of a
For a man so fervently
Western sting
patriotic,
operation,
that's a
although
strange
more
comment to make. Khan
practical
also had
reason
an
may
intense
be that the
desire
Gulf
to have things named after him.
War
from
was
hospitals
right
and
around the corner, and
universities to
the
the Kahuta research
discovery
lab
of
where he
potential
worked,
Iraqi
something
weapons
he
of
successfully lobbied the Pakistani
mass
APM
destruction
for.
could
The
put
atomic
the world's
establishment largely considered Khan
superpowers
to be
on
an
high
intellectual
alert as
lightweight
it
with a
would.
megaton ego,
Just
prone to
13 years
exaggerating
later,
his
it was even
expertise.
reported
Munir Ahmad
by the
Khan, no
Independent
relation, the
again
former
that
head
in
of the Pakistani
201
Atomic Energy Commission
leaked
said of
Al-Qaeda
AQK,
document
most of the
seized in
scientists who work on weapons
Afghanistan
are serious.
suggested
they are
that
sobered by
Dr.
the weight
Khan's
of what they don't know.
proteges
But
had been
Khan
briefing
is a
Osama bin
showman. A physicist
Laden's
from Islamabad,
associates in nuclear
A.H. Nair,
matters.
stated that, quote,
This
he
is also
a
the one
hardcore
thing Act
nationalist
didn't
and a very ambitious person.
admit in
He
his
is in it for
confession, so
fame
there is
and money.
speculation on how much Khan and Allah
himself claimed was
were
to deflect
involved.
world
We know
attention from the
Al-Qaeda
nuclear
had
progress of Pakistan,
nuclear
and as a
ambitions
gesture
at
of
the
support
time
to
and
other
sought
Muslim countries rather than
nuclear
to amass personal
expertise.
wealth.
Well, there is
in his
no
12-page confession, AQK
evidence
added
to
the
suggest
defense
Khan
that
was
he
directly
offloaded lots of duds, mostly
involved or
surplus
that
outmoded
Al-Qaeda received
centrifuge
any
parts or rough sketches of
nuclear
machinery.
material
However,
whatsoever if
as we
they were
mentioned, Khan is not
going
a
to get it
reliable
from
narrator.
anywhere it was.
North Korea is not a Muslim
From
country,
Khan, and
Shia
finally we
Iran
come
aren't
to
exactly
Libya,
friendly to the Sunni world.
where in
It makes
2003
Khan's excuse of a grand mission for global Islam ring rather hollow. Khan's own reasons for why he pursued the bomb with Pakistan have also changed over time. In an interview with Newsweek, he made himself crystal clear that it came from a place of deterrence. Quoting here, "I would like to make it clear that it was an Indian nuclear explosion in May 1974 that prompted our nuclear program, motivating me to return to Pakistan to help create a credible nuclear deterrent and save my country from Indian nuclear blackmail." The quote ends. However, his explanation for the other proliferations tells us more about his views of the world. In that same Newsweek interview, he stated, "Don't overlook the fact that no nuclear-capable country has been subjected to aggression or occupied or had its borders redrawn. Had Iraq and Libya been nuclear powers, they wouldn't have been destroyed in the way that we have seen recently." End quote. Of course, Iraq and Libya were both nations that Khan's network had tried to ensure got the bomb. This may indicate an anti-American or anti-Western sentiment, as would his purported connections with Al-Qaeda. Anti-Westernism had become a normal sentiment for many in Muslim countries following the invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan. There is also something to be said about Khan's legacy, defying traditionally hegemonic Western powers in favor of these pariah states and all but getting away with it in the end. Even associates of Khan's, who were part of his network and helped facilitate his proliferation, did not see much jail time, if any jail time at all. One German man was jailed and given a hefty fine for his role in Khan's network, but most of the big fish got away. The breakup of the network was an international masterclass, but the international community's inability to round up those involved and bring them to justice for their roles in some of the most heinous crimes of the modern day is nothing short of absolutely baffling. Whatever Khan's ultimate motive, he was enabled by the Pakistani government, at the very least, to commit the crimes that he did. This reveals another question about Khan's network. How much did the Pakistani government know? How deep did this rabbit hole go? Khan himself said in his confession that he acted without the Pakistani government's knowledge. However, Khan's status as a national hero, his proximity to the state for over 2 decades, and his very swift pardon may suggest otherwise. Islamabad has tried, ever since this news came out, to wash AQK's image and sweep the whole thing under the rug, a move that is deeply suspicious. After gaining his freedom in 2009, a Pakistani government spokesman said that, quote, the so-called AQ Khan affair is a closed chapter. Similarly, during the initial investigation, a British envoy challenged the Pakistani government on Khan, but according to the BBC, he was assured everything was in order. Pakistan's insistence to not let the Americans or the IAEA question Khan doesn't make sense if what he would tell them wouldn't implicate the Pakistani state in any way. If he acted alone, surely Islamabad has nothing to hide. The Washington Post tells a different story, that Khan told investigators that senior government and military officials, including General Pervez Musharraf himself, knew of the network. The Post also asserts that Khan said Musharraf personally had to know of the deal with North Korea at the very least, given Musharraf took over responsibility for the Ghauri missile program when he became Army Chief of Staff in October 1998. It's really hard to imagine any army general not knowing or asking where these weapons had come from. Such an exchange must have involved government-to-government contracts. As the old adage goes, not a single leaf moves in Pakistan without the knowledge of the army. Prime Minister Bhutto gave the order to build the bomb itself and ultimately set Khan in motion, but he died in 1977, just a year after starting Pakistan's nuclear program. His death may have led to some ambiguity on the Pakistani state's part about just what AQK might have been getting up to. However, from 1977 to 2004, when Khan's network was uncovered, there were 8 different leaders of Pakistan. It's hard to imagine none of them asked what was going on. As for Khan himself, he's been relegated to the annals of history. He is still considered a hero by many in his homeland for helping Pakistan develop nuclear weapons and stopping the state, in Khan's own words, being blackmailed by India. Pakistan's Press Information Department put out a message after the proliferator died from Syed Fakhar, Minister for National Food Security and Research, that said Dr. Abdul Qadir Khan was an iconic person who provided an unassailable security shield for the country, and his services for national defense building will be long remembered. His legacy within Pakistan is largely intact, and his legacy outside of it has been largely forgotten. Khan's actions led to incredibly dangerous consequences, and everyone should know his name. And for him to not only get away with it, but to be forgotten or lauded as a result, is a tragedy.